Welcome to the very first live stream here on the Magic Without Tears Substack with me, Marco Visconti, and our guest, Paul Hughes-Barlow, which is our very welcome and very esteemed
Thank you.
guest. And today, as you'll know, because you all signed up for this, right? We're going to discuss Paul's incredible new book, which is here it is, The Secret of the Thoth Tarot. Paul has as the camera not mirrored. I mirrored. I got it wrong. So you read it wrong here. But Paul, when you put it up, you can see the right mirroring of the video, right? So this book, I mean, Paul sent me like an advanced reader copy. Like, was it like a couple of months ago in August, something like that, right?
I think it was a month ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I devoured it. Like, I mean, I'm a big fan of Paul, and I'm not a big fan of many people, to be fair. But I really like what Paul has to say. I think Paul really understands Thelema like very few other people out there. And I mean, Paul did write another milestone book, which was The Tarot and the Magus, right? How long ago that was? That was
2004.
Yeah, that was like more than... Wow.
Yeah, I'm on my difficult third book.
Yeah, that's going to be hard.
The second book was easy. So this is the third one. So
well, this one is you wrote one also on the Celtic spread, right?
Beyond the Celtic Cross, which is more for people who know the Rider-Waite deck but want to sort of learn how to the opening the key spread.
Yeah. So, and already the Tarot and the Magician for me was I call it a milestone book. I actually suggest your book in my own books because I think that if people wants to have an understanding of what the Thoth Tarot is all about, of course, Lon Maladuquette's understanding of the Thoth Tarot remains another, important milestone. But then I don't think many people, especially in Thelemic spheres, know about your books, and I think many more people should know about your books because I think you present the Tarot and the Thoth Tarot with under very specific Thelemic lens that sometimes just people just don't care about them. Just see the Tarot as the Tarot, right? So thank you for that.
Right, it's an interesting kind of perspective on things because. Thelema, for me, is I don't really kind of fit in with a lot of the notions that people have of Thelema.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first book was probably channeled, and because it never went the way I thought. An early version, my publisher politely told me where to put it, and so they went away, and then just scrabbling around and eventually came up.
That's how the best magical books come together, right?
Yeah.
When there's someone else, like almost like an invisible scribe, maybe the Holy Guardian Angel is actually guiding you to write what you're meant to write.
I think, and also with this one, I mean, my publisher said, "Paul, do you want to write a commentary on the Book of Thoth?" It's about 3.5 years ago, I think now. I said, "Yeah, great, good idea." And I spent 20 years getting nowhere with the book. Nowhere. I went through, I thought, oh, well, I've done the opening, the Tarot and the Magus, and think, well, now I should be able to write about the other 4 stages of the Book of Thoth. And I never got anywhere. I went through, I thought, well, maybe the Dionysus is the god of the tarot, and I went through all these different memes and got nowhere and kind of gave up. So this time round, I thought, yeah, no problem. We'll do footnotes, and that didn't work because
it must have been like an incredible, monumental book of footnotes, right?
Yeah. It is. And actually, you destroy the integrity of the book as well, because actually Crowley edited the book and published it, so even the page numbers in some of the places
matter. I agree.
Page 10 and page 11 particularly. So and then I was also going through every single meme I could think of about how to describe the Book of Thoth, and they lasted a day or two before I gave up. Some of them didn't last that long. Some lasted a month. And I think, yeah, this, and then I couldn't get past 1 or 2 pages on any of them. And even when I was on the right track, there's like brilliant insights I got, but they got me nowhere either. It put me on the path. And so eventually, out of desperation, it's about 2.5 years into this bloody thing, getting nowhere. And I eventually gave up and thought, well, I better read the history section of the Book of Thoth, because I've tried everything else. And that's where the breakthrough came from. And it is, then it started flowing. Then things fell into place. Then things I discovered in Crowley's writings, because Crowley wrote a lot about the Book of Thoth. He wrote a lot about the major arcana in his writings. In pretty much every book he wrote, there is something of the major arcana. It's because he was exploring how to understand the major arcana. And so it was when I actually started, reading Crowley's writings, and then I realized that I had to read the originals. Not the adulterated versions that have been bowdlerized or cleaned up or whatever. So, one of the big things was getting the, you can see there, the Equinox books, because they are the original things where they were written. There's a real context you get. You don't find it in just the other
if you get like gems from the Equinox or anything like that, you
then
miss a lot of things. It's very heavily abridged.
You've got to go back to Keep Silence ones, the facsimiles, and they're cheap, 25 quid. It's £225, but bloody hell,
it's interesting.
It's all in there.
Like that very edition of the Equinox, the Keep Silence edition, I was the first to support it monetarily. I mean,
really?
If you see in the back, it's really like supported by Ameth Lodge, and at the time I was like the treasurer of Ameth Lodge. Deal. And I was the ones like pushing to say like we need to give some money to this project. And of course, Scott Wilde at the time was a member of OTO. I don't know if is still a member. I'm not a member of OTO anymore, of course, as many people know. But at the time, I was like, there's this guy in the United States, in Seattle, Horizon Lodge. He's doing a fantastic job. He had, as you know, since you have the books, like he had connections with a lot of those book collectors that have all the real first editions, right? For instance, like Tony Iannotti is a very famous book Crowley and book collector in the United States, and he has like, I don't know, 17 Book of Thoth, like 5 editions, like it's the kind of stuff like that. And so this guy Scott Wilde was able to get in touch with him and basically get proper new scans of all the pages, which is why it's crazy that each book is like it's super cheap compared to what it used to be. It's you can get the whole set for what 250 or something like that compared to the 2000s 3000 that it was going for before. Anyway, I don't want. We could talk about books forever. I have. Let's start with a pointed question here, because we have to talk about your book, not about other people's book. So one pointed question for you, like in one sentence, just one sentence. What is the secret of the Thoth Tarot that most readers miss?
It's that Crowley put his entire knowledge into the Book of Thoth. And you realize, that's kind of what I was alluding to with the Equinox series. It is, in the bibliographical notes, he lists, the books, Conks on Pax, and on all these other ones. And they're critical to understanding the Book of Thoth. You have to go out of the Book of Thoth in order to come back into it with that knowledge.
I think you've done a fantastic job here. For those who are, you haven't read the book yet, this book is not like the classic tarot book where, Paul is going to teach you about the, what this archetype is and whatnot. But it starts with pages and pages of serious exegesis of the Book of Thoth text compared to the Book of the Law, compared to all those other references of Thelemic texts that I would argue, and Paul argues very well in the book, that you must read and must understand to fully unlock the secret of the Thoth Tarot. And like for instance, you mentioned that um, it is a manual, like it's an invocation and a map. It's not just a divinatory text, right? So, what do you think changes in practice when we accept this premise, the fact that we are in the presence of a grimoire, not just a tarot, like a divinatory, tool.
I think the problem is that as most people know it, the Book of Thoth hangs in the air.
Mm-hmm.
It appears in 1944 in June, at the same time as the big thing that was going on, which is the invasion of France,
Yeah.
D-Day. And you kind of think, oh yeah, well, Frida Harris, 1938, she met with him, and all these things, and they produced a book. But what you have to realize is that Crowley was obsessed with the tarot since about 1899. It started then, and it never left him. It is just, and it is his journey to understand what the tarot is about. And he's not the only one to be obsessed, apart from me. Because you end up talking about Eliphas Levi. He was the giant of the tarot. And, Crowley, said he was an incarnation, but you can read that as a political thing, because when Crowley spent all his life as an outsider, he was an outsider in the Golden Dawn. He's, and he was a Freemason, but he wasn't a 33-degree Freemason, except he wasn't recognized by UGLE, United Grand Lodge of England.
It was definitely not. Yeah.
No, and he wrote tons and tons of letters, and he was never accepted. So he was outside of that. I mean, even the OTO, he wrote the rituals, but he never did them.
Mm-hmm.
You see.
This is something. This is something most people don't understand, and maybe it's important to to put a point here. If any of you is watching this, you maybe you're a member of OTO or you're a Thelema, so you know exactly what we're talking about here. Or even if you don't, if you're just curious, you got to understand that, like Paul just said, Crowley did rewrite the rituals of the OTO to transition them from a strict, Masonic structure to a sort of like Thelemic Masonic structure, but with all the main points being Thelemized, updated for the new eon. But he never performed them, right? He wrote the Gnostic Mass. He never performed it. He wrote the rituals of the AA. It looks like he might have done some of those, but the bulk of it, never done it, right? So this is like a lot of what we think of Thelema, especially of Thelema in Crowley's time. It did live in Crowley's graphomaniac, output, pretty much, because he was writing so much, right? The very first OTO lodges started doing something properly were the Americans, not just in Detroit, and then of course Pasadena, which is famous for like Agape Lodge for being the lodge of Jack Parsons, right? But back to you.
Yeah, I think, well, actually the AA is actually the Golden Dawn.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a Thelemized evolution of the Golden Dawn. Yeah.
Well, the AA came first, didn't it? And then the OTO. I mean, the thing about Thelema, I mean, I kind of I think that what I've written is Crowley's will. It's a kind of a big statement to make, but I mean, what else is it? I don't know. I mean, it is trying to put the Book of Thoth in the context that it didn't have before. It's just 1944, it appeared, and no one wants to sort of put it in any kind of structural framework, which is what I've done. And what I hope is that this, once it's a bit like, any, like the Mona Lisa or any of these great artworks, you have to have provenance. You have to know where it came from, who paid for it, where it was done, and was it a student, and all of these things. And the Book of Thoth sort of sits there with no provenance.
Yeah.
So you can't do any kind of critical analysis of that book until you've worked that out.
Hmm.
Okay.
And
And
speaking of provenance, right? Like I think you found the
yeah,
original, the source of the Book of Thoth, and um, you lean heavily into this Masonic scaffolding or
yeah,
proto-Masonic scaffolding of of this society called the Society of Eight. What can you
yeah.
tell us about that?
Yeah, well, yes, that was set up by Frederick
Hmm.
Holland, who was introduced to Freemasonry by MacGregor Mathers, or Mathers, as he was known at the time. This is down in Eastbourne. So they kind of went through things, and they ended up at the Metropolitan College, the SRIA, I think it was then, was the other one. And um, Frederick Holland did the work. He did the alchemy. He did all of these things. And, Kenneth Mackenzie visited Eliphas Levi in France. And Eliphas Levi said it went, Fred, Kenneth Mackenzie said it went really well, but apparently I don't think Eliphas Levi was too impressed. But anyway, they talked about the tarot, and the Society of Eight was really set up in order to explore Eliphas Levi's writings, and there's a book that's published posthumously and translated by Wynne Westcott about the major arcana in particular,
Hmm.
which is all about magic, and you see the structure of this in book 4 as well, where there's two versions of the 22 cards in terms of magic and things like this. So Crowley is politically saying, I am identifying with this defrocked Catholic priest.
Yeah.
Okay. There's the politics. I don't think people realize how deep the politics runs between the Catholic and the Protestant churches
Yeah.
in Freemasonry.
Oh yeah. I mean,
It's
absolutely.
a big, big thing. And actually, kind of the thing, and there's a comment in Book T, um, where is it Book T or no, Cipher manuscript, and talk about
Hmm.
allowing women and something about Catholics, because that was clearly a dig on the whole thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Absolutely.
the thing about it was that Kenneth Mathers was never in it, and Mackenzie knew the real character of Mathers. He knew what he was, and so Mathers was never really in it at all. Um, but if Fred Holland had done the Golden Dawn, we would have never have heard about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it would have remained secret, because the Golden Dawn was never a secret society, because Mathers couldn't make money if no one knew about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
You see, and then the reason women in there, yeah, because he's doubling his potential audience on
Yep.
things as well. So you have to be
I'm pretty
deeply
sure. I'm pretty sure
cynical.
that if anybody of the current member of the Golden Dawn is listening now, they will like curl their toes or something. But it's true. I mean,
It's true.
the Golden Dawn at the time was a very. I mean, I would say like it was like popular, but it has a big reach. Like you had Florence Farr in it, and
Yeah,
Florence Farr was a very very famous actress of her time. Like she was one of the chiefs, and I
yeah,
mean in many ways it's great because it was like this moment where finally the structures of the very poor Puritan Victorian society were starting to coming loose at the seams, and so finally we could have women and queer people, by the way, as members and even like in position of authority. But at the same time, at the core, it was because Matters wanted more paying members.
yeah.
That is the
Uh,
truth of the matter, right?
and he used Westcott as a patsy in the whole thing as well. Patsy Westcott didn't need money. He was independent wealthy. He
Yeah.
was head of the SRIA. He had no need and things, and he was there because otherwise that gave the kudos to the whole Golden Dawn thing. So I mean, we don't know exactly how it happened, but Mathers had a hand in writing the letters that purported to come from
Anna Spangler,
Madame
yeah.
Saurus. Yeah, and then there's the whole Saurus thing as well. I mean, the paedophile sort of stuff that came out of all of that. But I mean, the other good thing that happened with the Golden Dawn was that Crowley met George Cecil Jones and Alan Bennett,
Yep.
and they toddled off to Holborn, just down the road, and started doing goetic rituals and he's the Abramelin sort of thing, and then he was getting Bolscar, and I can't pronounce that word properly.
You know,
I'm
it's
from
funny. It's
Essex.
funny you mentioned the Holborn man in Chancery Lane, 65,
Yeah,
67 to 69
it
Chancery
doesn't
Lane.
exist. Doesn't
It,
exist.
it it doesn't exist anymore. So I don't know if you noticed, I've been doing this Crowley crawls here
Oh
in
yeah,
London
yeah,
in August
yeah.
and September. The last one I did like 2 weeks ago, and if you go to Chancery Lane, my light just went out. It's interesting because I'll tell you why. So if you go to Chancery Lane, there's this old Victorian terrace, and then there's an empty space because clearly it was turned down a couple of years ago, and then there's nothing there. Like they I don't know if they're gonna put up something at some point, but for now, just like between two terraces, there's this empty spot, and that is where like Crowley, which at the time was very independently wealthy as well,
Yeah,
invited Alan Bennett, which was a very well-known magician in the Golden Dawn already, to come in
yes,
and stay with him to teach, so that he could teach him, the Goetia and the Bromelian and all these real magical, proper magical things. Of course, under the suggestion of Cecil Jones. Now, it's interesting you mentioned that because every time I've run this Crowley crawls now, every time we go to that spot and I tell the story that, they conjure semi-solid shadows and there's 316 demons coming up and down the stairs all night, something went wrong. Like, in August, as I was saying this, like one cyclist like was almost rammed into our group, like almost hit my girlfriend. And I mean, we were there, like he could see us, just he didn't stop.
yeah,
And 2 weeks ago, very same spot, very same story I was telling. It was like what do you say? It was overcast, but it wasn't raining. It starts like pouring down, like seriously pouring down.
really.
And as I stopped the story, done.
Stopped.
It was like, okay, this place is definitely very active, right? And then, I'm telling the story, my battery went out over there. It's curious thing. So I mean, magic is real, folks. But at the same time, it
It,
wants to.
I think what people don't realize is that Crowley was doing Abramelin all his life.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
absolutely. It was.
something you just kind of get there. It's the word of the equinox. Some of them over the years were actually were hardly knocking words sometimes, or there were words from Abramelin as well.
Hmm.
So he's always been doing that. People don't realize that. So there is that in the Book of Thoth as well too, because he talks about the sword that sort of does its own thing and stuff. But the interesting thing, of course, it was Mathers who gave him the copy of the Goetia, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
the
absolutely.
thing, but also the Abramelin as well. Because all Crowley wanted was to see the hidden masters.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
He
and
was on
either
the
way,
search for that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and Mathers, obviously couldn't do it because he never could. And so Mathers sent Crowley off to Mexico as a way to get him out of the way. The thing was, Crowley was only in the Golden Dawn for about a couple of years,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there's no way he could have. He was again the patsy for everything because the outsider blamed him. Classic stuff.
Yeah,
And of course, once kind of Mathers was going, they're just rats in a sack, trying to take over the whole sort of thing because there were so many people in the second order
hmm,
because they paid
yeah,
and
yeah.
they got
They could
votes.
get there.
When
Yeah, yeah.
when you see rapid advancement on about any member of the Golden Dawn at that time, it means they paid
They
extra
paid for. Yeah.
to Mathers to progress.
I mean, at
Um,
some point, that's what also tries to do with Crowley. When he's in Paris and Crowley is basically like he's promised the access to the second order if he would go to Blythe Road and get the documents and whatnot. The famous Battle of Blythe Road, which never
yeah,
existed,
yeah,
guy. It's not
yeah.
real. It's how do you say? It's one of those internet hoaxes or legends that refuse to die, right?
Well, I think it's more the fact that if you're defending the Golden Dawn, you're going to blame Crowley. I mean, there's another Golden Dawn member that no one ever mentions that went with him as a woman. I forget her name, but it's Crowley as soon as he found George Cecil Jones and Alan Bennett, he was off.
Yeah.
And I mean, then he got shipped off to Mexico. and where he met John Jesus Medina,
Mm-hmm.
who was
Don Juan
Freemason.
Jesus Medina. Yeah,
Don
yeah.
Juan Jesus Medina, yeah, who was head of the Freemasons in Mexico. And
Well, allegedly, allegedly.
well, it turns out there are 3 Masonic Freemasons systems
Obedience.
in
Yeah.
Mexico. So, I mean, how are you supposed to know? And so he was so impressed with Crowley's knowledge of the Kabbalah even then that, he made him a 33-degree Mason. I mean, even towards the end of his life in 1942, 43, as a letter, when Crowley says, I am a 33-degree Mason.
And like that's all the
You
problem
don't,
with
you don't,
with regularity and clandestine obediences that we still contend to this day, right? Like it's a bit of a, it's maybe a story for another day. I have to press on, because if not, we can talk about this forever.
yeah, so get back to the book.
Let's go back to the book.
I've got a book to promote here.
Another question directly from the book, because I guess, like I said, the book doesn't talk too much about divination, but it does at some point. It does present some ideas of how to engage with the cards in a different way. So since I've seen some people have joined, and I know that some of you who are watching it right now, you are interested in tarot as a divinatory tool. One question for you. You describe cards as constants, while spreads are more like equations. Can you walk us through a single example where spread solves a magical problem better than any list of meanings could? Like, when can a spread help you more than just learning correspondences and meanings of the cards?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing is, being anally retentive. You learn the order of the cards and the meanings and the astrology and everything else. But of course, in a tarot reading, you shuffle the cards up, you randomize them.
Yep.
If cards came out in the correct sequence, you think you've done something wrong, basically. But the first stage of the opening of the key spread is critical, because you're cutting the cards into 4 piles, which is Yod He Vav He, which is automatically an invocation in itself. And the act of cutting the cards, there are 3 actions to cutting the cards. You end up with 4 piles. Excuse me, it's a cough. And so you're already, it's a magical ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Because the princess is the earth pile, which doesn't exist technically, because earth doesn't exist, even though there's 4 elements, is the place where the unknowns are. And just by practice, I mean, I only know one tarot spread, the first stage, and that's what I use in all of my readings, basically. And when you look at the cards, something comes into your mind. So it's the spirits talking through you, and then people say, "How did you know that?" Well, it's supposed to be a job, It is, that is, in essence, it's a mechanical procedure that generates that energy and that space that you kind of creating between, and it's a mystical union, because it's solve coagula. The union of opposites is you with the client, and between us is the cards.
Mm-hmm.
So you're creating a mystical union between yourself and the client who's having the reading. They don't know that, but that's kind of really what's happening. So there's something that you gain from that reading, from the insights. And anyone who knows me will tell you that I'm useless at the meanings of the cards. Absolutely rubbish. And it's not, I can read cards in groups. I can't read cards individually.
So you mean you can read the interconnect, like how the cards relate to each other, pretty much. Okay.
It's the energy. You kind of go beyond the counting and pairing and everything else, and you just kind of see what's there. It just happens, basically.
Okay. So it is more akin to what happens when you practice, when you work through a proper conjuration, in many ways. Like, you are conjuring a spirit, a tutelary spirit in this case, maybe. Which, would you say that the tutelary spirit is Tahuti, it's Thoth, right? And of course, Thoth is connected with the number 8, and the number 8, you go in very much, very detail, in a lot of detail in the book about what the number 8 is. What can you tell us in, like, as quick as you can about why 8 is so important?
It's a with the researchers, I kind of realized there's a thing about 8 going on in the Book of Thoth. It's not obvious, but 8 is Mercury, and it's in the appendix. Crows lists all of the attributes of Mercury. Mercury is 8, and it's also a sign of infinity on its side. It's Hod. But also Crowley realized early on that there's a higher version of Mercury, which is in Hokmah, the second Sephra. And so Mercury is above and below in the tree of life, above and below the abyss.
The abyss, yeah.
So so everything it is. I mean, the whole thing of Crowley taught Frida Harris to invoke Thoth Tahuti twice a day with his Liber Israfel.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how it basically Thoth Tahuti. I'll say Tahuti rather than Thoth. Tahuti was channeled through Frida Harris, and Tahuti created the paintings. Okay, now that's good, except that Frida Harris screwed up a few times on the ritual, and created a lot of problems. So eventually Crowley figured this out, and he gave her the Juventum mantra to say to appease Mercury, because even in his writings, sometimes he made a mistake, and he apologizes to Mercury. You don't piss off Mercury, okay? This is the thing.
I mean, it is the god of commerce, but it's also god of thieves, right? So it's like it's
an
interesting.
They are the side of Jesus.
Yeah.
And of course, Jesus is the number of Jesus in Freemasonry is 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Society 8, and there's also the 8 spirits of Abraham Malin as well.
I mean, there's another important 8 in Thelema is the Octimonos, which is another name of Baphomet, and Baphomet, of course, is the conjunctio oppositorum, exactly what we were discussing. So it's all this 8 comes out again, and then you mentioned Mercury. Mercury is the, how can I put it? Is the seed, right? And the seed,
sex
of course,
magic.
Exactly. That's also the idea of sex magic. It's found everywhere. This 8 is the number 8 is found not just in the Book of Thoth, and I'm glad that somebody is finally writing about it, like directly, like finally. And again, I'm very curious to see what a lot of Thelemite magicians will make of this, because it's you kind of in this book you really extract a lot of the things that have been implied in the Book of Thoth for the last almost 100 years, right? They're here in plain sight for everybody to read. And, by doing that, you can go back to look at certain rituals of the AA, certain rituals of the OTO, all the rituals of the OTO, and you find this 8 coming back again, because it's all the things you're saying, right? It's Tahuti. One of the one of the experience in the second degree of OTO, when you become a magician, that name comes again, right? Because again, it's really, really fundamental for the entirety of Thelema. You mentioned Lady Frida Harris, and of course, I would suggest everybody to look for Deja Whitehouse book that just came out recently, The Lady and the Beast, the first book dedicated to Lady Frida Harris. Another fantastic, it's a very good book. It's good that we have out there more and more books on the women of Thelema. Next week, in fact, the Diaries of a Lost Trail of Leah Hirsig are coming out as well.
Really?
On the 3rd of October, Henry Bogdan will be doing a presentation of Watkins. I don't know if I can make it, but it's finally we're finally having more and more spotlight on the women of Thelema. There was the biography of Leila Waddell, which came out like a month ago, something like that.
Mother of Heaven.
Yeah. I mean, it's there should be also this other book called The Women of Thelema coming out from Camuret Press that has been like announced for everybody, as it's not there yet. Anyway, if you could correct one persistent modern myth about the relationship between Harris and Crowley, or their role, would that be, if there's anything to correct at all?
Frida Harris was entirely innocent. He decided very early on that he was almost uniquely, he didn't have sex with her in any way, shape, or form. It's
funny you mentioned that, because just today somebody asked me if they ever had a relationship. I was like, no, not that I know of. Right? Absolutely not.
No, he I don't think she even knew about the sex magic stuff.
Mm.
She was entirely because he was seeing a lot of he was carrying on doing sex magic 1941, 42, 43. You know, and some of the women that Frida Harris actually knew some of the women as well. But
Yeah,
I don't think she ever knew. It was, but I mean, but the fascinating thing is that this was the best relationship he ever had with a woman,
yeah, I would say so
um,
as well. Yeah.
and the most productive. They didn't always get on, but I think that is a lot to do with the fact that she was invoking Mercury incorrectly, and she
Mm.
had a lot of strange turns and stuff and things like this that were going on. I think she was he was very frustrated with her about all of these things as well. But she kept on going. So you know, yeah, it is an extraordinary relationship, um, that you know, Deja Whitehouse is, and I was so relieved when I heard that Deja Whitehouse was writing about Frida Harris. I don't have
So,
to write about
so you
Frida
don't have
Harris
to.
and Crowley. There's no way she knew so much more. There's no way I could even comment. So
Yeah.
it was a pointless exercise. So, yeah, go and read. In the book, I've actually, you know, I've say go and read Deja Whitehouse's book, and that's before it came out because I knew it'd be so much better than anything I could do.
Going back a little bit, we have still like more or less 10 minutes, so we're
Hmm.
gonna try and wrap it up. Going back to the more magical aspects of the book you wrote, one thing that I found very interesting for various reasons. I'm not gonna plug my own things, but I'll mention it when the time comes. Is you write about something that you describe as the martial signature of Adonai, W- or you know
Oh yes,
the
yes, yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
What can you tell us about that? You know,
It's
imagine that, you know, the people watching us now, they haven't read the book yet. By the way, if you just joined, the book is out right now. You can buy it on Amazon.
today.
You can buy it from Ian Books directly. Go buy it.
Yeah, if
It,
you get it from me, and I'll sign it as well.
exactly. So,
So, you know, hopefully that doesn't decrease the value of it. But anyway, so I don't know. I mean, right at the beginning on the second page of the history of in the book of Thoth, I mean, Crowley goes into some gematria.
mhm.
Okay, and then there's this whole thing about the number 13, Achad, which means unity. And so when you double Achad, unity 13, you get 26, which is Yod He Vav He Tetragrammaton. And 78 is 6 times 13 as well. So 13 is an incredibly important number. And one of the other numbers is 65. Now, 65 is a number of Mars in the magic square of Mars. It's also in the Golden Dawn system, 6 equals 5 and 5 equals 6 as well. So yes, the swastika. He couldn't put the swastika in it because we were fighting Germany at the time.
I should say that this is actually a proper Hindu swastika, because I know that the video is mirrored. Yeah. Anyway,
It's and Adonai. Um, the thing about Adonai is 65.
hmm
But when you expand Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yod into the constituent parts, you get 671. Okay. And 671, I forgot what 671 is. Yes, anyway.
it's in the
It's in
book.
that kind of thing. And it's the whole thing is that a tarot, Taro.
Tiaro,
Bloody hell, it's
exactly.
a subject I'm
Tiaro.
supposed to be talking about. Tau, Tau, Aleph,
Tiaro.
Red, Yod. Yes, yes, there it is. Yes, that comes to 671. So, and Adonai means the Lord, and in Freemasonry, the Lord is always Jesus Christ.
hmm
And particularly in those days, even today, really, to be a Freemason, you have to be a Christian. Okay. And to become a 33-degree Mason, you have to be a Christian. So Crowley was a Christian.
Not anymore.
I will
tell you though, as somebody who is a Freemason and not a Christian, it's not anymore.
Not,
But
not
in
anymore.
those
No, in those
days, yes,
in those
definitely,
days.
yeah. In those days,
Yeah.
yes, definitely, yes.
And Crowley actually wrote a poem about the dangers of changing religions as well. Actually, even though he's trying to get people to be Thelemites, he stayed.
On that note, you make this point in the book, and there will be, I'm pretty sure, it will be a point of contentions for some, because you make the point. You say it out loud that you think that Crowley never stopped being a Christian,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And my counterpoint to that would be that for those who truly understand Thelema is post-Christian. It's not anti-Christian. It has elements of anti-Christianity. If you look at the Book of the Law in chapter 3, obviously there's a Rahur Kuit that does give us a very stern and stark critique of the slave god religion, but when you look at the system, it is what comes after Christianity. For Thelemites, the word as the revelation, the apocalypse, has already happened in 1904. That was the end of the old world and the beginning of the new. But it is a continuation. It's not like something that So in that sense, I would say I agree if you say that Crowley was never stopped being a Christian, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's 888, isn't there, as well? I mean, they're very pious writings of Crowley's. I mean, the Lord will is the will of God, the will of Jesus.
Absolutely.
The Logos, and the revelation, which is an important component of this as well. But it is just. I mean, there's one of the in the appendix, not the appendix, where he talks about the Enochianitas, he writes about them, that there is this aspect of Jesus on the Christ, Christ on the cross, and all of those things as well. And you think, what the hell's that doing?
I mean,
this
in the 9th degree of OTO, in the Arte Magica, there's a lot of reference to Jesus Christ as well. And I mean, recently I put out a translation of this old pamphlet called The Eucharist. Maybe there's a reason, maybe there's another reading in there, and that's the idea of, Christ as the anointed one. And so there's something about being anointed by what? And maybe you were back to that mercurial fluid that hints at some other kind of maybe sexomagical operations, right? But to wrap this up, and first, before wrapping it up, I want to thank you for being here. This was our first live here. It's been. I hope you had fun. I had great fun here.
It's been great.
And before I give you ask you the final question, one thing I would like to say: if you find yourself in London on the 16th of October, Thursday, 16th of October, which is the third Thursday of the month, I run my moots, that is like this free get together in the Fitzroy Tavern in Bloomsbury. If you go on my website, there's all the proper address and everything. But Paul will be with us again. Paul is a regular at the mood. We always get drunk and talk about magic and other things. But this time, Paul will come and talk more about the book and have books and sign the books and we can get drunk together.
It's the official book launch. It's the official book launch.
It will be a book launch. It will be a proper book launch.
And if people have already got a copy of the Secret of the Thoth Tarot, bring it, and I'll sign it as well. And I'll try and get some copies of the Tarot and the Magus as well, in particular. So if you haven't got that,
please do.
Yeah,
but for those of you watching now, I will post about it. So no worries, you have all the reminders. Final question.
Yes.
So if the OTO was never the Tarot's custodian, and if the Golden Dawn mishandled the tarot itself, which is some points you make in your book, and I agree. Who does hold the living transmission of the Thoth Tarot in 2025, and what does custodianship even mean here?
Did I talk about custodianship in the book?
You kind of do. You're there. You give some hints there.
I think the why the Book of Thoth is so contentious in OTO circles is because Crowley gives the keys to that in the Book of Thoth. I mean, one of the main keys is invocation, and it is a manual of practice and organization and a lot of other things as well. Just coming back to the Christian points, I mean, there is, of course, Christian Rosenkreuz, which is a huge part of all of this as well.
Number
which was
120, you
forgotten.
mentioned 120.
Oh,
It's
big
another
number,
important number, right?
big number. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's all in there. I mean, I only got as far as I could because I had to stop, because otherwise the book would never have been finished. Yes.
Well, so we can consider you one of the custodians of this tradition. I think we can. I mean, even if you don't like it, you've been given this task right now.
I seem to be, don't I? You know, I carry the cross as the Book of Thoth. So yeah, I wear it lightly. You know, I'm fascinated. I'm still obsessed, and I'm still researching, even before. As soon as I stopped writing the book and sent to the publishers, and the next day I was doing more research, and I've continued researching ever since. So the obsession doesn't stop.
That's good.
But I hope we see everyone on the 16th of October. That would be great.
Exactly. So, Paul, once again, thank you for the fantastic first live here. Thank you for all of you. I know it's many of you here now watching this. Once again, 16th of October here in London at the Fitzroy Tavern in Bloomsbury. We'll be there. Paul will have his books. We'll be drinking and be merry and talk about the Book of Thoth, which is our obsession. So come along if you're in London. And if you're not in London, we'll see you on the interwebs, as we used to say back in the 90s, at some point. For the time being, thank you again, Paul. Do what the will shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love and the will.